As the United States fights a trade war across the Pacific Ocean with China and battles skirmishes with its NAFTA trading partners of Canada and Mexico, U.S. Trade Ambassador Robert Lighthizer traveled to Belgium on Monday to soothe concerns of the European Union. Now, the meeting was the first since the EU president met with U.S. President Donald Trump in an emergency meeting in Washington, D.C. Now, the two allies have been working to find a path forward before Trump imposes tariffs on EU automobiles for what he calls bad trade deals for Americans. Now, Lighthizer and EU trade chief Cecilia Malmstrom met, and USTR called the talks constructive, hoping for an early harvest in the area of technical barriers to trade. Now, as part of a handshake agreement, Trump announced earlier this year that the EU had agreed to buy more U.S. soybeans and liquefied natural gas. Now, the two sides are also working on a plan to reform the World Trade Organization. Lighthizer now returns to the capital for 2 days of talks with Canada in an effort to shore up the final leg of the three-leg North American Free Trade Agreement stool. Mexico and the U.S. reached an agreement last month, and now time is running out before the existing agreement is retired later this year. Let's move back to D.C. With the current 2014 Farm Bill expiring at the end of the month, the 2018 Farm Bill Conference Committee held a public meeting last week. Since then, much of the actual negotiations have taken place behind closed doors among the Big Four. That's a group that consists of the chairman and ranking members of the Senate and House Ag committees. Major obstacles to this point have been major reform of the nutrition title and elimination of a popular conservation program in the House bill. So with just a few legislative days remaining this month, some media reports raising the possibility of a short-term extension if major differences cannot be resolved in time to meet the deadline. Now, short-term extension will not provide producers with the certainty they need to run their operations. That's according to the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, or NCBA. Organization is watching the negotiations closely, though, as both versions would authorize a fully funded foot and mouth disease vaccine bank. And finally, though considered taboo in the U.S., some cultures still regard cats and dogs as suitable meat for human consumption. China is the world's top consumer of dog meat. Vietnam is second. Practice has been banned by most other countries, though consumption in the U.S. is still allowed in 43 states. Florida Representatives Vern Buchanan, a Republican and member of the House Ag Committee, and Alcee Hastings, a Democrat, will have their bill prohibiting the slaughter of dogs and cats for human consumption considered on the House floor on Wednesday. Now, if approved by both chambers and signed into law, the crime would carry a $5,000 fine for each violation. They also have a resolution to be considered later in the day that would urge all nations around the world to outlaw the consumption as well. And with another Ag News update, I'm Tony St. James.